I don't know what's going on. What? This is why I don't like PC. It's just a piece of sheet. All right. Where am I? Where am I? Just do the time. This is why I don't like PC. How's my audio? My one viewer. Oh, got two now. Oh, wait a minute. One of those is me. That's sad. Don't nobody love me. All right. What's up, Nuts? How's it going? Hurry up and start the show. Nobody came here to watch you drink water, Mo. All right, this is kind of weird. So let me close this. Tonight on Masterpiece Theater. Yeah, I had to change the stupid. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I had to change the other event because I couldn't get it to start because my wonderful PC was saying I didn't have a network. It wouldn't let me connect to the internet. It was bugging for no reason. Because it's a PC. That's why I was bugging. So I did the best I could do. So hopefully people will figure it out. I'm gonna give them some time. I'm gonna give everybody some time to get in here. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up in the morning. Let's talk about Nintendo's awesome. Oh, we're gonna talk about Nintendo's awesome online. That's what we're gonna do. Juice, don't worry about that. Tough week, my man. Tough week for me personally. Tough teaching in a school that has no damn AC. Fix your AC. What's up, everybody? Get it, boy, get it. 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 I don't understand YouTube. Like, It didn't like that video. It said I couldn't monetize it. It wasn't suitable for all. It's too black. That's what it is, right? It's too black. Black. Perfect Dark was trash. You're trash, Juice. You're trash. Get good, son. Get good. Perfect Dark is one of the greatest shooters ever made. One of the greatest video games on the N64. You're out of your mind. You played like 10 games on the N64. You have no you have no right to speak. This dude owned 10 N64 games. I don't want your opinion. No thanks. Yeah, it was tough coming up with stuff for this week, man. Because honestly, nothing moved me this week, man. Nothing moved me. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about how nothing moved me this week. Not that it's a terrible thing, but nothing moved me. Nothing piqued my interest really. So, Perfect Dark felt like it lost the magic of GoldenEye. First of all, aren't you the one that be hating on GoldenEye? So what magic are you talking about, Juice? What magic are you talking about? I didn't know GoldenEye had any magic for you, the way you talk about it. What's the best fighting game ever? For me, is Soul Calibur 2. Or Soul Calibur 4. I mean, it's subjective, obviously. If you're asking me, the fighting game I played the most, and is arguably, well, it is my favorite series of all time, Virtua Fighter 2. Okay, so you love GoldenEye. Good. So I don't know. All this game did was add more to what GoldenEye. That's all Perfect Dark did, was add more to what GoldenEye was. More weapons, gadgets, and story, and scenarios per level. More, or should I say, less frames, because the frame rate did take a hit. But a lot of games on N64, a lot of games that era didn't have the best frame rate. So just how it was. You can't play it now, but you can't play. Oh, okay, so you're saying you can't play GoldenEye now? I feel sorry for you. I don't know what to tell you, man. I can play GoldenEye and Perfect Dark just fine today. Paid $100 for Perfect Dark and was super excited for it, but just couldn't get into it, probably because the 4-player split screen aspect was gone because all my pals went off to college. But what about the game? I get that. I totally get that, because that was a big part of GoldenEye for me, was the split screen with friends and whatnot. But I would say Perfect Dark's main story was more compelling than GoldenEye's. I love the movie. I love GoldenEye, so I was probably more into it. I love James Bond and whatnot, so I was fanboying a little bit for that, and the fact that Pierce Brosnan, who I wanted to be James Bond for like 10 years at that point, I was fanboying for the fact that he got in. So I just love GoldenEye to begin with, but compelling-wise, as far as, like I said, gadgets and the world of Perfect Dark, I think it's more compelling first person for the story elements. So, SACON 10 with SC6, is that Soul Calibur 6, and Dead or Alive 6 coming out soon. Is there room for Virtua Fighter 6? For me, there is. I would love Virtua Fighter 6, obviously. Just Sega still have the ability to deliver, the team to deliver Virtua Fighter 6 compelling enough. I hope so. Again, I love that series. Connected with the fighters and the style of it from the beginning. So I hope so. What's up, Linker Link? What's up? Wouldn't mind playing Perfect Dark for Xbox Live Arcade someday. Yeah, and a lot of the problems with the N64 version are gone as far as frame rate and stuff with the Xbox Live, or you can get it on Rare Replay. Oh, you don't have? Oh yeah, is Rare Replay for PC? I don't know. But yeah, like for me, I couldn't because I'm so used to the N64 controller. I've tried to go back to those games. You know, it just doesn't feel as good. I have the muscle memory. Doesn't work for me, but if you don't have that, I'm sure you can have no problem playing it. The only game, I'm trying to think, the only Rare game or the only Rare Replay game that doesn't bother me playing with the Xbox controller is probably, maybe Jet Force Gemini. Laker Link says Perfect Dark was an amazing N64 game. I remember walking to GameStop to buy it. Yes, it was. I remember that like it was yesterday. What was it? Perfect Dark come out 2000. Like that game was just right up my alley because I loved GoldenEye and the sci-fi elements of it, and yeah, that's why I love Perfect Dark so much. I even bought the Game Boy one with the cartridge was like came with like basically it was a really big cartridge and it had like a little battery slot because it had rumble capabilities in the cartridge. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like a Game Boy game that had rumble in it, but you had to buy a AAA battery, and the game was pretty ass, but I thought that was cool and it looked cool. I'm playing a lot of Dreamcast back then too, so I didn't help the situation for me playing. I was too, man. I'm the Shenmue dude. Remember, I played a ton of Dreamcast when it first came out. I had Sega Net. What was it? $22 a month. Yeah, all you dudes complaining. That Sega Net was no joke. Was it $22 a month or $22 for 3 months? Something like that. Way more expensive than it is now, and that was dial-up, son. Dial-up. So. Yeah, transfer pack. Yep, that's right, like Link. Which studio would be perfect to develop a new Perfect Dark? I mean, Microsoft, you would think they have. Why is this thing? I don't like this going to sleep. You would think they have studios that could do it. Whoever does, does Halo 343? You would think they would be able to do it. I don't know. To me, that's like right up Microsoft's alley. You think they would have Perfect Dark still going on. Perfect Dark Zero was a travesty. So I don't know. I just think they don't care enough. I don't know why they bought Rare if they do nothing with their IPs. I know why, back then it was to take them away from Nintendo, but Rare without Nintendo isn't Rare. So it wasn't that big of a loss outside of losing those IPs. Terminator Juice says Rare Replay is actually a true Xbox One exclusive. Oh, okay. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft and Nintendo work out a deal and that thing ends up on Switch or something. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that it's not on PC. That won't last, I'm guessing. All right, so I guess we will get it started. We're talking about Rare. Thanks to Juice bringing up Perfect Dark. All right, so let's go. Nindies. We had a Nindies showcase, or what do they call it? Direct on Tuesday, I think it was. I don't know. It's been a crazy week for me, so I don't even know what day it is. Well, I know what today is, but I don't know what day that was. And the week has been bananas. Yeah, so I watched the Nindies event, and I watched it start, and I watched it finish, and I wasn't moved at all. I mean, outside of the sizzle reel, which is the games that we pretty much already knew about, and the games that I wished got a little bit more focus during the Nindies event, I was pretty bored. A lot of very samey games, which I think a lot of people talked about the fact that it was a lot of kind of samey games, like visual pixel style games, and that's, for me, that wasn't a Nindies thing. You know, the fact that I'm getting wary of those games, certain art styles in indie games. I've been getting wary of them for like over the last year or so. A game might be good, but the art style kind of pushes me away sometimes. Like, there's games that are out there now that I'm like, I hear great things about all the time, that I'm just like, man, that art style though. I have so many games that already look like that. Celeste being one. Like, I always hear how great Celeste is, but I think the reason I haven't jumped into Celeste is because of how it looks. Because I'm so, I don't want to say done with that art style, but at this point, it's just like, that's the thing that's pushing me away from games like that. And looking at the Nindies showcase, again, it wasn't just the art style. Gameplay wise, a lot of those games did not move me the way indies usually do. And again, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. It's just an indie showcase. I'm not upset. Like, some people like get mad about it. About, it's just an indie showcase. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really bother me. I have 20 to 25, maybe even 30 indie titles on my Switch wish list. Like, because I always make sure to check the the eShop, not because I don't want to miss stuff, because obviously the eShop, it's not as easy to find games now because there's so many games on it now. But I always make it a point to check it, and then if it's something that I find interesting, I always throw it in a wish list. Even if it's not a game that I'm gonna buy, I just want it on my wish list so I'll be able to, sift through it easily and not get lost in the shuffle. So there's a ton of games on there already that look like these games that are coming now, and I'm just like, they're just not moving me. I'm like, I already got a ton of games that I'm probably more interested in on my Switch wish list, on my eShop wish list. And I'm like, and not to mention PC, on my Steam wish list. So I'm like, those games were not moving me, not, they're slow moving. And, that kind of looked like the Dead Cells kind of, I don't want to single out Dead Cells because, again, I heard it's a really good game, but the thing that throws me off about Dead Cells is the roguelite. Like, when I hear roguelite, I'm like, I don't know. But I think I will end up getting Dead Cells at some point, but giving it a shot. But yeah, it's just like, it was pretty meh. Some people I heard people complaining about the guy who was doing the event. Like, that didn't matter. Like, he was fine. It's just he didn't have much that compelled me. So it wouldn't have mattered who delivered it. They could have had like, what's the announcer do? They could have had him do the Nindies thing, and it still wouldn't matter because the content didn't move me at all. So, but yeah, most of the stuff I cared about was in the highlight reel, or the quick reel after they. I guess that Goose Game, Untitled, is it called Untitled Goose Game or something? The fact that they would call it that and the idea of it, it's just like a goose walking around trolling people. That seems kind of funny to me. I don't know how long it's going to last as far as keeping my interest, but I just think that's a funny concept. But, you know, Flipping Death and stuff like that, you know, those are games that are on my radar. I'm going to get for sure. But I was, you know, nothing new that really moved me. So it was, you know, it was okay. It was a fine event. I'm sure they wanted to showcase certain games from new indie companies they have partnerships with. Maybe Nintendo does. So, you know, these little indie things they're not E3s. Nintendo Directs are not E3s or anything like that either. Well, it's hard to say that because E3 isn't E3 anymore. So I don't know. Like it's not a big deal. Basically, what I'm saying, they're not big deals. If they have a bunch of great stuff, great. If they don't, they have a bunch of okay games, fine. But I figure after like because the UK had their own thing, and then North America, and the West, where we had our showcase or whatever, and they were completely different. But I was more interested in some of the games I saw in the UK one. So, I mean, I guess that kind of these are the things that it takes away from another event. And Nintendo needs to be wary of that. They act like we're a really connected world here. If you're gonna drop something in Japan, even we'll know about it beforehand. We'll have watched it. We may not understand it, most of us, but like you got to understand that one event will affect another one. You know, just because you drop a UK event a week ago, that's still on the minds of everybody who cares about these things. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me scroll through your. Wow, where are we? Sup, Levon Kesa. Hope I said your name right. And To the Breach from the creators of it. Into the Breach. Oh yeah, that one looked interesting. What people says Little Craig to the Bone. Why aren't you trying? Juice says Terminator Juice. Why aren't you trying to make that Nindies showcase as hype as E3, man? Because it wasn't. It's not a big deal. I don't really care all that much. I'm waiting for a physical version of Flipping Death. Oh yeah, me too. Laker Link. Honestly, thought Hyper Light Drifter came out in 2017 on Switch. I knew it did come out in 2017 on PC, right, or Steam or whatever. But there was another game that I thought had already come out here, but it hadn't. But so I can understand why you thought that came out already. I think it was Terraria. Terraria. I thought that game had already come out on Switch, and it hasn't. So it surprised me that it wasn't out yet. Where are we? No Filter says many of the best games in the past decade have been from indie developers. I find it surprising how so many gamers can look past the stuff without paying attention. Yeah, I mean, I don't get it either. You know, how you can pass up indie games or not care about them. Maybe it's just because you're so focused on AAA and the biggest, most craziest graphics and all that kind of stuff. I guess you can look past indies at that point, but like indies are harkening back to the era I became a gamer. So looking at those games, I find it, that interests me just because of that. So I don't know why people, I guess I can see why younger audiences maybe pass it, but like people my age or just behind me or maybe a little older than me, how you can like just not even care about indie games. It's baffling to me. Good ones, obviously, not bad ones. Hover Revolt. Yes, Hover. So excited for Hover, man. Where are we? Have we talked about Dragalia Lost yet? No, and we probably won't. Because no matter how interesting a cell phone game looks to me, and Dragalia Lost does look interesting, I'm not going to spend much time with it. gaming on my cell phone or even my tablet doesn't really. I'm not compelled to do it for very long, very often, and so even like good games, I can't because it's just like swiping. I'm a gamer. I started with this, you know what I'm saying? The stick and the one button, and we moved on from that. It was always me using, my phalanges, and this is not gaming. It will never be gaming to me. So regardless of how good a game might be or interesting it might be, it's just not going to compel me for very long. So yeah, so there are good things about it, but I just know I'm not going to play it for very long. Surreal says, never mind. I must have missed something earlier. Laker Link, you're talking to Stitch there. Yeah, controller support. Yeah, that would be great, but I mean, these games are built for cell phones and just swiping with the touchscreen. So I don't know if they're even going to do that, consider that. And I always see people like, oh man, the game looks fun, but I wish it was on, my Switch or something tactile, But for me, there's plenty of stuff for me to not miss playing that game on my cell phone. So like, because I'm just not going to dedicate too much time playing games on my cell phone. I can't. The gamer in me won't allow me to do that. So yeah. So as far as the Nindies goes, Nindies event, Nindies Direct, I don't really have much to say about it because I was pretty bored for most of it. And again, people hear bored and that's a negative. It's just, for me, it's just I wasn't compelled. I'm not upset about it. I don't know if I even wish it was better. I'm not going to say, oh, they could have showed this or done this to make it better. Maybe they could have, they could have showed Travis Strikes again or, some of the other games, Messenger. Messenger's coming out pretty soon. I saw reviews up for it. So I guess that's a game they could, but I'm going to buy that game. So I'm not moved. I wasn't moved by it and I wasn't, for me, it's not a negative. It's just a meh, whatever. So Messenger is already out. Okay, so I did some reviews posted. So, oh, great. It's out today. Wonderful. I'm guessing it's digital only. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for a physical copy if I can. Because like I said, I got a ton of stuff to play and a ton of stuff in my wish list queue. So yeah, I'm not gonna buy it. Don't worry, Juice. Not gonna buy it. Not right now. So maybe in a couple months, there's a digital or there's a physical version or something. I get flack for like buying games, but a lot of the times it's very similar. For me, it's very similar to my eShop queue, my wish list. It's like if I don't buy it now, I'm gonna forget it and miss it. And I'm just like the type of person, I don't like to miss stuff. So even if I don't get around to playing it right away, I like to know that I remembered it, it came out, and I bought it. And I'm not, 10 years looking for that game or, oh yeah, I remember that game. I forgot about it. I want to, get it while they get inside, and I want to support the developer if it's a good game. So save Streets of Rage for the end. I don't really. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, I will move it. Maybe no. I'm gonna keep it like this. Because I want to split up the rants. Because Crapcom is gonna get a rant, and obviously Nintendo Online is a rant. So we'll move on to Capcom. If Curse of the Moon has physical release, it would be a double. See, yeah, Curse of the Moon is another one of those games that's on my wish list that I don't want to forget about. When was the last Streets of Rage game released? Streets of Rage 3 was what, 93, 94? And that was it, right? That was the last one. Well, here's the thing. See, I don't want to get into it now. I'm going to save that. I'm going to answer that question later because there's some backstory stuff to do with Streets of Rage. So I will save that. We'll move into Capcom. Yeah, I think you're right, like in 94. We'll move into Capcom, or Crapcom, as I should say. This is the last rant I'm going to do about Capcom because I'm done. I'm going to be done with Capcom after this rant, like, because I just don't get them. So obviously, they do a good thing, and then they do right away. They do a bad. They messed up that good thing, basically. And for some fans, maybe not. But usually for the Nintendo fan on the Switch, they mess up, they muck it up, man. And it's like I'll tell you right now, because I think a lot of people, I've said it before, a lot of people I feel like defrauding about games. Oh, I love that game. Oh yeah, I played that game. I had that game on this, and this, and that. Even though you've never heard them talk about that game before. So obviously Onimusha is coming, and I was never a fan of Onimusha because I like the idea of Onimusha because I like the whole ancient Japanese thing with the kind of I guess it was like demons and kind of that whole mythical thing. But it came out at a time that I felt like Capcom was how should I say, was milking. Yeah, that's the best way. Was milking a control scheme, a gameplay setup. Obviously, it had Resident Evil, and Resident Evil is always remembered for the tank controls of Resident Evil, and I guess Capcom really liked that engine, and so they used it for a lot of stuff. You guys probably remember Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis was basically Resident Evil with dinosaurs, or Resident Evil meets Jurassic Park, and very cool concept, very cool. The game was pretty good. I never really got into Dino Crisis. I played the first one, and that was about it. But those games were doing well. Games like, obviously, Resident Evil did well. Dino Crisis did well. So they went on and made more Resident Evil games. Excuse me. And Dino Crisis games. And they continued on. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember that Devil May Cry actually started off as a Resident Evil game. And if you play it, you realize it has those same kind of controls, Resident Evil style, with the what do they call that? The fixed camera, the fixed camera angles, the what do you call the 3D rendered backgrounds. So it had that, and you can probably figure out pretty easily that that was a thing. So they used it for that game, and they continued on with the Dreamcast, the GameCube games for N64 or N64 GameCube. The Resident Evil games for GameCube continue to use that kind of style up until Resident Evil 4, obviously. And Onimusha, which was a big series on PlayStation 2. And it used that same kind of style. And for me, that kind of game, I wanted to be I wanted to be faster. I wanted to be more open. And so that's why I never got into Onimusha, because I didn't want Resident Evil style controls in that kind of game. And a lot of people, gravitated to it. They still liked it. It was a pretty popular game on PS2. So a lot of people liked it. And I think, is there 2 or 3 of them? It's a trilogy, right? There's 3 of them. And, they came out during the PS2, GameCube, Xbox original era. And a lot of people liked them. I never got into them, so it wasn't a thing for me. So I never really cared for the games to begin with, but I thought it was a cool thing, again, because as a retro gamer myself, to be bringing back old games. But I felt like, why not a trilogy? I felt like I feel like it's $20, and they, they HD'd it. They did what they did on the PS3, which they made a lot of PS2 games HD collection. And I felt like, why not do that? Why not? Well, the reason for me, I think it's a nefarious reason, is that they can make $60 selling you the games one by one, instead of making $40 putting them in a collection. Because if they made one, I'm sure they could have easily used the same engine, whatever, and spit out 2 and 3 as well. They could have made it a trilogy, and it would have been really cheap to do so. But Capcom, they want to make their money, which most companies do. I get that, but I feel like Capcom they do it a little too much. Now, here's the thing with the Switch version, obviously. No physical release. What is this game size-wise? Like, there's no way this game shouldn't fit on a 8 gigabyte cart for Switch. There's no reason that this one HD'd game with PS2 textures, there's no reason that game shouldn't be able to fit on a cart. And it seems to be a Capcom America thing, because Capcom Japan, just like with Okami, they're putting out a physical version. So I don't understand it. The bigger market is in the West. So why wouldn't you want to serve that audience with a physical version, if you're going to do it for Japan? Like, I don't get it. And that is the stuff that drives me insane about Capcom. So I believe, for me, I haven't gotten a Kami. I'm gonna get the Japanese version, but I'm gonna buy that, and I think I'm gonna be done with Capcom as far as buying new games from them. I think I'm gonna be done, because for me, I can't. If they can't put in the effort to give a physical version for their games on my favorite console, when they do it for everybody else. And again, an 8 gig cart is, at least for all reportings of it, an 8 gig cart is very comparable price wise to a Blu-ray disc. And you see all these indie companies do it. Like, you telling me, these indie companies can afford to do it and Capcom can't? It's pathetic. It's pathetic, and I'm not going to give them my money when they can't do the simplest things. Obviously, they've done crazy stuff with the Mega Man collections, and like I said, Okami, and I'm not going to keep doing it. I'm not going to do it. So they've joined the boycott line for me. I'll get your game. I'm not going to touch games I have to download for no good reason. There's no good reason I should have to download these games, and you're making me download them. I'm not even going to touch those games, used or not. I'm not touching those. And then things like this, I'm not even going to buy. Like I said, it doesn't hurt me not to buy Onimusha. I think the way they're putting it out there is price gouging, because they figure they can make $60 instead of $40 or $30, putting it in a collection, which it should be. These games should not be put out separately at a $20 price point. Like I said, they're doing it because they know if they do it in a collection, nobody's going to want to pay $60 for that collection. When all you've done is, some up-res and stretch out the image. So they know that consumers not going to want to do that. So we'll put it out for $20 each. It'll seem like a lighter blow, and then we'll really cheap out when it comes to the Switch version. I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to do it. So Capcom is officially boycotted. And it hurts me because Mega Man's coming out, Mega Man 11, and Mega Man 11 will be a used purchase for me. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I need to see some effort. You want my wallet? You want to go in my wallet? You got to show me some real effort. That's how I feel about that. So they're right there. Capcom is right there with EA for me. That may seem crazy to some people, but their output, their effort is utterly pathetic when it comes to Nintendo at this point. And you know, like they got a lot of money out of me. You know what I'm saying? They got, you know, big purchases out of me. Like, and I'm not gonna do it anymore. Not gonna do it. So let me see what you guys are saying. All right, so that's Streets of Rage. I'm gonna say that for later. For Switch, they made great exclusives, but they've marketed them terribly in PS4. What was that? What are you talking about there? These seems to be a kind of internal conflict where Capcom's Nintendo team wants to make great games, but the bosses don't want those games to do well, right? I mean, it's just, I don't understand why even put the effort in if you're not gonna put the effort in. You know, like why waste the resources to even do it if you're not gonna put, you know, your heart into it. Tank Control says Laker Link. Is there 4 Onimusha games? Is there like a side kind of game, like a Onimusha Tactics or something? The team could potentially break off and become another monolith sub. I don't know what you're talking about there. Perfect Dark got the N64 cart. No, what you're talking about there. Rob Morris says, not that this matters on this platform, but screw it. But screw it. What would you rather be around, EA or Capcom? That's tough. EA honestly doesn't make anything that I care too much about at this point. So I would say Capcom, because they still have IPs I care about, but they're not up to par, man. They're not doing what they need to be doing, and I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna reward them for this pathetic effort. Ghouls and Ghosts remake would be awesome. Does Capcom? Aries 73 says, does Capcom Japan know their U.S. division is being this cheap? I would hope. I don't know. It's like, how can they be this separate? I just don't understand. You would think when it comes to putting out the funds, Capcom Japan has to, they're the ones, the bosses. They're the Japanese side. They're the ones who come up with the money for all this stuff. You would think they would have some say in it. I just don't. I don't get it. No Filter. I hope EA is on that list too. EA's been on that list for me for damn near a decade. Like, EA games wise haven't, they've published some stuff that I cared about, but I don't like their business practices, their nonchalant kind of dismissive attitude when it comes to Nintendo. So I whatever, you can make 1 million subscribers. What is that? Is that an ad? That's weird. Oh no, that's your name. We can make 1 million subscribers. Hey guys. Okay. That's a new name on me. Saycon 10 says, I bet Nintendo would also charge $60 for Metroid Prime HD trilogy. I don't know. And again, Metroid Prime, because I'm speaking as a fan, I don't know if I would want to pay $60 for that either. But it would be an easier pill to swallow. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I care about those games where I don't care about Onimusha. They're bigger games to me because they're full on 3D first-person adventure games, whereas Onimusha is that style of game to me isn't that big of a thing. So I mean, I don't know. That's a good. Again, it's the effort. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some control differences. Nintendo's probably going to add more to it as far as that. I don't think it's just going to be a straight HD port, which is what Onimusha is. I don't think they've added anything significant. And HD upres, I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough one. But again, coming from a guy who doesn't care about Onimusha, like, and I look at the game and I don't think, for me, here's the thing. I think Metroid Prime translates better to the now era of gaming. Onimusha to me is a very, it's an era type of game. It's like, they don't really make those types of games. They don't make pre-rendered background tank control games anymore. So for me, it's not justifiable to be as high of a price as a Metroid Prime, whereas there are still first-person shooter, first-person adventure games being made today. So that game translates to today's era of gaming better than an Onimusha does, or you know, like, I wouldn't pay $60 for an HD collection of Super Mario Brothers either, you know? But then again, you look at a game like, well, that's a new game, so, and it's using new tech, Octopath Traveler. So there's nuances. There was always going to be nuances to it. But for me, a tank control, fixed camera, 3D rendered background game that doesn't add anything new really to it, control wise, really, or I guess controls they've tweaked because you use the analog stick, but an analog stick for that type of game isn't going to feel right anyway. So it's not like, oh, it's feel like a full 3D analog kind of setup. So I don't know. For me, stop going to sleep. For me, it's a different thing. So, but basically that's it for me when it comes to Capcom. I'm done with them at this point. So let me know. Let me see what you guys are talking about here. EA is on that list. EA is trash. Yes. No filter. Already said that. Lake Link Smash Bros. Onimusha game. Is that the other game? Is that what you're saying there? That Smash or Onimusha has. Yeah, I know, Surreal, that Monster Hunter is amazing. Like, I know that. I play Monster Hunter games. I've played them since PSP. So I get that. But I feel like I've already done the 3D, or I've already done the 3DS up-res for my console thing already. I bought, was it Monster Hunter Ultimate? I bought that for my Wii U already. And I'm not going to do that again with Double Cross for my Switch. So I feel like we've done that already. We've been there. For Wii U, it was more acceptable because Wii U was not a popular console. But for Switch, I want to see more effort on it. I want to see more efforts put into it, because you do that, and then I made the video. You invest in me and I invest in you. That's how it works. And I've bought multiple Monster Hunter games. I got a freaking Monster Hunter 3DS, and Capcom's been making pretty good change off of me. So I would like, some comeback. And I don't feel like I'm getting it as a Nintendo fan. So I'll probably pick up Worlds, but I'm going to pick it up used. They're not going to get my money. They're not going to get my money at this point until they do what they're doing, until they fix it. Yeah, Metroid Prime Trilogy on Wii U eShop is $20, but that's not an HD version. I would expect an HD version to be more expensive because they go in and they, you know, they've done some work to get it up to HD, and hopefully they do a lot of good work. Wouldn't it be amazing if secretly Retro Studios has been working on like what they call a remaster of those three? And we just didn't know about it. Wouldn't it be sweet if that happened and they actually just remastered those games and not just a HD? Remaster is when they just fluff it up. A remake. What if there was a remake of those games? That would be great and worth more money. Are you getting Monster Hunter Generation Ultimate used? Probably. I'll probably get. I'm not gonna buy it new. That's for sure. So I very likely will get it, but it will be a used copy. AKA Slayer. Q. Oh no, just jumped. Why did you jump like that? No, I'm lost. I had it. Okay, here we go. Get it on Black Friday from Walmart or Best Buy. Yeah, even if the game was $5 new, that's $5, or at least part of that, Capcom is gonna get. I would pay $6 used over $5 new for that game. Dime for me at this point. All right, EA's been on the no buy list. I love that no buy list. Since the year 2000, people have been noticing how often they recycle their assets and code. Yeah, that is very true about EA. Finally get to see you live. Oh, Sardonic Pickle, welcome, man. I know you left a message or two about missing me live, and good to see you in here, my man. Rob Morris, I really missed out on a lot of the indie games that Blade Strangers fills up on, but I feel like I need to play them now to get to know the characters a little better. Maybe this was a smart move with Nintendo. Laker Link Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate was my first Monster Hunter game, and I was bored playing it. Yeah, I mean, Monster Hunter is an acquired taste. Even for me at this point, the controls and gameplay mechanics are getting a little stale for me. So that is a series that needs a reboot, I think. Nothing overly crazy, but they need to rethink. I haven't played Monster Hunter World, so I don't know if that's part of that. But that game was pretty popular, sold pretty well, and it got good reviews. So maybe that's already happened. So I don't know. That stack of Switch games is impressive. Yeah, I think that's all of them. Maybe I have a few more somewhere else. No, I have a few more somewhere. Since PSP, yeah, I've been playing. Yeah, it's real. I've been playing it since PSP. I have over here Monster Hunter Freedom 2 on PSP. So, Monster Hunter Tri and the Wii was your first. Okay. Yeah, so I've been a fan for some time. Like, and I'm not gonna act like even on the PSP ones. I got them a little later after they came out, and I wouldn't say I didn't really get into Monster Hunter until probably Ultimate 3 Ultimate. So I'm not gonna act like I'm some crazy Monster Hunter fan, but I did play Monster Hunter games throughout. So Stitched Wooden World didn't feel vastly different. Okay, so it's not vastly different. Obviously, visually, it's different. I think they said I've seen people say content-wise, it's not up to par, up to standards of Monster Hunter. So that was kind of a turnoff for me. Diablo 3 will have amiibo support. Is that true? Oh, that's cool. If I had more friends to play with, Monster Hunter would be better. Yeah, that's what I was saying about Monster Hunter on Wii U, because I had my channel and I had people to play with, and it was more fun. So I really got into it then. Aiming for 60 frames per second was pretty good. First impression for Diablo 3, I'm guessing. Sardonic Pickles said Diablo 3 will be your first. Yeah, Diablo 2 was my first, way back, 2000. I didn't play Diablo 2 when it came out. It was still somewhat popular when I got it, though. It was like, I want to say 2003, 2004. I started playing it. But not long after that, I gave up my PC because I was going to film school, and it was all about the Mac. So that's when I switched over. And so I pretty much gave up PC gaming back then. But that's 2004, I think, is around the time I started playing. That game came out in like 2000, I think. Diablo 2 came out in like 2000. And but I was playing games like what was the game? The other dungeon crawler I showed you guys on the GameCube, Gauntlet. I was playing Gauntlet Legends on the 64, and then on GameCube, and very similar visual styles to those games. So I couldn't get into Monster Hunter, and 3 Ultimate was also my first. Rob Morris says, yeah, it was a lot. It seemed like a lot of people got in then. A lot of people got in and try on Wii. So Monster Hunter does DOS was my first. It was incredibly. Oh, I thought you said incredible. It's incredibly boring. 3 try was where some of the better weapons started showing up. Okay, cool. All right, so I mean that's pretty much it for Capcom. I don't really have anything else to say about them. They are blacklisted. They are going on the boycott list. So good job, Capcom, and it's they've fallen so far. Like, I'm a longtime fan. I mean, look at this beauty in my collection. I was a big fan of Capcom. You can probably see all my Sega Saturn Capcom fighting games right there. A lot of them are pretty expensive today, but Capcom just isn't Capcom anyway. At this point, they do a lot of re-releasing of their games at this point. They're big on the nostalgia, which is fine because Nintendo is big on nostalgia too. But they're making new games in that line. And, Capcom at this point isn't. Capcom to me fell off during the 7th gen. Like, they started trying to chase the Western big dollars. They started making games that were outside of their wheelhouse, and I think they lost a lot of capital during that era because it was expensive. So, Mara, hello T. It's great to be able to actually speak to you. Usually, I don't see your videos until the next morning. Cool, man. I'm glad you made it to the stream. Laker Link, do you have the Chainsaw GameCube controller? I did have that. I know I have it somewhere. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I was like, I know I have that controller. It's probably in storage, but I'm pretty sure I have it. So yes, I'm gonna say yes. But I got so much crap, I don't remember some of the stuff I have, but I'm pretty sure I have that chainsaw controller for Resident Evil 4. It's awesome. Capcom should give their IP to me. Says Surreal, I'll do wonders with Dino Crisis. Yeah, Dino Crisis, I think that's a series I'd like to see come back, but I would want it to be a third-person action game instead of like, don't bring back those tank controls, man. Do it. Give it the Resident Evil 4 treatment, and I would so be into that. But I think those were pretty cool games, and it came out around the time of the height of like Jurassic Park. So it was definitely feeding off of that stuff. Dragon's Dogma was the last new Capcom IP that excited me. Yeah. Sardonic Pickle says. Rob Morris says, anyone think the port of Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming? I have it, but shelved it. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, though, I played the hell out of it portably. I think X will come at some point. They're still riding the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 wave, so obviously it's Torna out yet, or it's releasing soon, so they're still doing that. I think once that's done, I think by this time next year you'll hear about it, or it may even be out. X will. So, what's up, Mr. T? Says Rebel One. What's up, Rebel One? We're talking shit on Capcom. Yeah, that's right. Rock, yeah, it's messed up that Capcom mostly sucks these days, but this year they've reached their biggest profits since the early 90s. And yep, so they'll probably keep porting and half-assing. That's right. That's the downside of it. Like, I'm glad they're doing better, but they're doing better not doing a whole lot. They were doing better releasing new games in their series. That would be great, but, you know, a lot of companies are doing that now. But, like THQ is a company that's doing it. But THQ is bringing new games. THQ Nordic, I should say, because Nordic bought THQ, so now it's THQ Nordic. And they're accumulating companies and games, or not companies, but accumulating IPs from yesteryear, from the 6th gen, like Time Splitters and whatnot. Obviously, they have Darksiders, but Darksiders 3 is coming. That's a new game, a big new game I'm excited for. So it's okay to do that as long as you're bringing new stuff as well. And unfortunately, from my perspective, outside of Monster Hunter Worlds, their new stuff in their series hasn't been that great. I mean, Street Fighter V was a debacle of a launch. What was the other fighting game? Marvel Capcom debacle. So they're just not who they were. So I don't mind them digging into their old stuff. Great. I love their old stuff. But when you do that, why cheap out when it comes to Nintendo fans? Like, we were there buying your games as well, just like everybody else. So that bothers me. Is it just me, or is Square not delivering either? I know they brought Octopath. However, look at how they messed up on the copies that were available. Yeah, I mean, I think Square could be doing better as well. I'm giving them more headway because they do publish stuff. Like they publish the Tomb Raider games, which I love. Obviously, Octopath Traveler, that's a new game. I mean, Final Fantasy 15. I mean, a lot of people seem to love that. So they are delivering with their new stuff. They are making new stuff, and they're putting in effort, especially on Switch. They have a Switch division, so I can't complain, even though there hasn't been a whole lot coming from them at this point. But I'm looking forward to Dragon Quest 11. I know that's coming. That's a new game. So I mean, so I can't get on them as much. They could be doing better. I think they could be doing better, but I think they're doing pretty well. I mean, obviously they're taking some time with some of the games they bring out, Kingdom Hearts and stuff, but at least it's coming. At least there's a Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3. At least that is a thing that's happening. Where you look at Capcom, and you can't say that for a lot of their stuff. Like, they have a lot of great stuff, especially that they just popped up in the 90s, and they haven't touched any of that stuff. So, and they probably never will, outside of re-release. So, Switch Online triggers. Yeah, well, it's triggers me too. But I have a deeper process when it comes to my disappointments with that. So we'll talk about that though. Marvel Capcom. I don't miss Street Fighter V or Marvel vs. Capcom. Yeah, me neither, Q. because they were pretty much debacles. All right, so let's move on to Streets of Rage 4. Awesome. I am a huge Streets of Rage fan. Streets of Rage 2 is obviously my favorite. I think it's most people's favorite. Most people, when they talk about Streets of Rage, they talk about 2. I like 3. The order of importance to me, Streets of Rage 2, 3, and then 1. 1, control-wise, is the jankiest. Not that it's overly janky, and the character models I didn't like as much in that game, but there's still a lot of cool stuff in that game. But to get a Streets of Rage 4 announced, and we haven't had Streets of Rage in 24 years. We have no new Streets of Rage games in 24 years. Technically speaking, we have had more Streets of Rage, and I'll get to that. But I love how it looks. Obviously, they didn't show a whole lot, but that's fine. I'm just really happy to see a new Streets of Rage game. There was, you guys remember, I was kind of hyping up Raging Justice because I so wanted a new beat 'em up in that style, and Raging Justice did not deliver. I think I'm going to do a review on that game soon. But it is so sluggish of a game. How is it more sluggish today? How's that type of game more sluggish than a game that came out in 1991, 92? Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. You should have been able to easily look at what worked and what people love. There's so many games in that genre of the beat 'em up side scroller that Raging Justice should not be a sluggish affair, disjointed affair. So that game was incredibly disappointing to me. So to have that come out this year and be disappointing, but now getting a Streets of Rage 4 announcement, I'm super excited. And it looks fast, just like Streets of Rage. And Streets of Rage wasn't overly fast, but I mean, as far as like combat, looks great. It looks like Axel has been letting his facial hair go, which is cool. He's not, the kind of fighting pretty boy that he used to be. But I love the art style. I'm so digging it, and I would hope that they not just give us the Streets of Rage 4, but evolve the genre to some extent, and because there have been other beat 'em ups and whatnot that have come out indie wise, especially on Steam and whatnot. So I hope they take some of that stuff, and evolve Streets of Rage, and not just do a fan service game, but actually evolve the genre. So so like I said, Streets of Rage hasn't been a thing since 1994. That was when Streets of Rage 3 came out, I believe. So we haven't had one. So when we moved into the 3D era, which is PS1, N64, Saturn to Dreamcast, we moved into that era. I was really excited to see the beat 'em up game evolve, and Streets of Rage was supposed to come out in that era. There were some hiccups involved with that. Apparently, the license for the game itself, the characters and whatnot, was in question. And so a couple of games started out as Streets of Rage 4 or the next Streets of Rage game, but it didn't happen. Like I said, I guess licensing issues ensued. So one game that started out as a Streets of Rage game was the Die Hard games, the Die Hard trilogy, Die Hard Arcade. That game started out as a Streets of Rage game and became a Die Hard game. Another game, which you guys probably remember, and it looks it's way closer, more similar to Streets of Rage, that you probably can look at me like, oh yeah, I can see where that Streets of Rage game is Fighting Force. don't know if you guys remember Fighting Force on PS1 and N64. It was Fighting Force 64 on that. And then there was a Fighting Force 2, which kind of changed the whole gameplay style, and it was a terrible game. And not to say that Fighting Force 1 was a great game or anything, but it was a nice beginning to the evolution of 3D or the 2D brawler beat 'em up game genre. And Fighting Force was a good step in that direction. Obviously, there was issues with the camera. There was issues with some sluggishness with combat and things of that nature, but it was a good step. And so Fighting Force, if you look at it, you start thinking about the characters, the girl, the main guy. They all have that kind of, they have the Streets of Rage characters kind of look to them. I don't remember their names, but I remember there was a big brawler type of dude. There was a big wrestler type of guy. There was a pretty boy main fighter, blondish. I think it was more brunette kind of guy. There was the girl, the sexy martial arts girl. So you had that whole setup. If you think about it, they were very close to the Streets of Rage characters. So Fighting Force was also supposed to be a Streets of Rage a game. And then on related to it, but not part of the Fighting Force thing, is that on Dreamcast, you got Dynamite Deca or Dynamite Cop in the West, and that was supposed to be another Die Hard game. So there was the connection from Streets of Rage to Die Hard to Dynamite Cop. So, but I'm glad. Obviously, I'm super psyched. We're getting a Streets of Rage 4. Love that series. And like I said, it looks really good. They gave us a little teaser, not much, but hopefully they evolve it. They evolve the brawler genre, the 2D brawler genre. And I believe it can be done. I would love to see an indie company or a bigger company move on and give us a good 3D brawler. I believe the last game, maybe there's some other ones, but the last one I remember is Square. We were talking about Square earlier. Square's The Bouncer, which was terrible. That game was very short, but it had a lot of good ideas, I thought. And there was a connection from that game as well with the character. Oh yeah, I believe one of the characters in that game went on to influence Sora and Kingdom Hearts, because that game had a very stylish, kind of stylized look to the characters. So there's all these connections. But yeah, I'm very excited for Streets of Rage 4, and can't wait to be able to play it. So yeah, let me see what you guys are saying here. Where are we? Some of the juice. All right. So Terminator Juice, I'm back now that the Capcom talk is over. But we're in Sega talk, so not really. Mostly Streets of Rage, but Streets of Rage was a Sega property. Streets of Rage 4 considered an indie game? I don't know. Actually, I should have paid more attention to the trailer and whatnot. But I would guess so. Is it Sega? Does anyone know? Or is it some indie company? Well, there was definitely indie companies I saw in the beginning of the trailer. I don't remember seeing Sega. So they must have the rights. Like I said, because Sega, I believe, lost the rights. And that's where you had the whole debacle with Fighting Force and whatnot coming out. So not really feeling the art style of 4. Maybe that'll change as time goes on. Yeah, I mean, I can see where some people may not like it. But I think for me, because it still looks very much like the characters and stuff still are there. It's obviously kind of more comic book style to the art style. How it looks. So I feel like as long as it plays really well, I'm going to be pretty happy. So down at Pickle says Streets of Rage 4 does look good. I was a Nintendo boy, and so I have no nostalgia for Sega stuff, so never been a huge side-scrolling being up guy. love the art style. Well, there was some really good side-scrolling beat 'em ups on Super Nintendo as well. You had the Turtles games. You had all the superhero games were side-scrolling beat 'em ups. Batman's. You had Maximum Carnage. You had the Spider-Man games. So those were all beat 'em ups. You had Double Dragon. You had what was the equivalent to? Well, not equivalent to Streets of Rage, but you had the Capcom games. The oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't think of the name of. What were the Capcom games that were very much Streets of Rage like? I have them all. I can't think of the names right now. I'm sure somebody will put it in the comments. But so you had a bunch of brawlers that were on Super Nintendo as well. But I'm a Nintendo fanboy, but I still love Sega as well. And at that time, Sega and Nintendo for me were right there. There were certain things that Sega did better, arcade style games. Nintendo was better at, adventure games and platforms and stuff. But, I had a huge affinity for Sega, especially in the arcades. I was a big early 90s arcade kid, and those Sega cabinets were amazing. And obviously the best sports games were on the Sega console, and I was a big sports fan. I still am. And like I said, the fast-paced, crazy shooter stuff, that was all on Sega console. So, but Streets of Rage was definitely that game. Here's the thing about Streets of Rage 4, though, they have to get right. It's not just about the fighting and having all the characters and stuff. The big thing about that series, a huge thing about that series that can easily be overlooked, is the music. The music in those games was amazing. And technically, the Super Nintendo had a better sound chip set. I believe Sony. And that was one of the reasons Sony didn't sue Nintendo once that deal fell through with the PlayStation, because they were making money off of the Super Nintendos, Sony sound chip. But there were certain games that would come out on the Genesis that I was like, is the is the Super Nintendo that much better? And the Streets of Rage games was definitely one. I would sit back and listen to the BGM. Streets of Rage and on the Shinobi games. Oh, the Shinobi games had really awesome music and sound effects and sound design. And I would just sit back, I remember like my grandmother, because I'd be playing the game, and my grandma would be close, and she'd be like, "Are you gonna play the game? Or you're just gonna sit there and listen to it?" And she didn't really understand the fact that I was so enthralled by the music that I was just, I was just content sitting there listening to the BGM tracks. So that's another thing they have to get right with Streets of Rage 4. They have to get if you're gonna do remix tracks, great. If you're gonna do new tracks, it has to be in that kind of what's the genre? That kind of techno hop style that Streets of Rage games are really good at. So they definitely have to get that right. All right, so where are we? Rage, good. Laker Link, the music in Streets of Rage series is amazing, and still hear the soundtrack. Like the boss battle music, I can't do it because it's so good, and it's all the instruments are so varied, and for a 16-bit cartridge system to be putting out sound like that, to me, was amazing. The soundtrack has to be on point. Let's see. Rob Moore, Streets of Rage. What's that? Mini 3DS is something I go back when the 3DS gets turned on. Oh yeah, they have those 3D Streets of Rage games on the 3DS. I never bought those. They have those the 3D Sega stuff, right? Jaden Ed says, "Hello, you wonderful fools. It's time for the visiting show." What's up, Jaden? Axel does have an impressive face, an impressive face bush, says Sardonic. Yes, it is pretty coiffy. Laker Link, I almost started yelling at work when seeing the announcement. Me too, man. I was working. I was at school, and I saw not the announcement, but I saw, I think it was RGT85 impression video he put up. I just saw like the blip of that, and I'm like, Streets of Rage 4, what? And like, I like ran to the bathroom. I need a bathroom break, and I watched the trailer, and I was just smiling from ear to ear. I thought it was awesome. Laker Link Fighting Force. Yep. Southern Pickle. Is your computer on, T? It's on, but my TV, that's my TV screensaver, so that's why you see that. But if my computer goes off, my this whole stream goes off because that's the computer that I'm streaming with. So, where are we? Final Fight. Thank you, Santiago. Yes, Final Fight was the series. It was a trilogy on Super Nintendo that was not as good, but still pretty good as far as my tastes go. On the Super Nintendo, so wasn't as fast, wasn't as flashy. The music wasn't as good, but it was a good series. Yes, Rocky, the game is being co-developed by the devs behind Streets of Fury and Wonder Boy and Dragon's Trap remake. Okay, yeah, I could totally see that. I think I remember hearing that too. But yeah, you can totally tell the art style is very similar and in ways to Wonder Boy, the new Wonder Boy game. So Final Fight, everybody's saying Final Fight. Yep. Captain Commando. Rob Morris says, I must have missed something earlier there. My theme is why the SNES sound chip is supreme. Yeah, it is technically a better chip, but like there are some games that came out on both systems that like came out on Super Nintendo, came out on Genesis, that you wouldn't be able to tell because they didn't utilize the chip. At least they cheaped out on because I mean technically you're not using it. If the company doesn't use it, then it doesn't really matter. So all right, so now you feel haha, you had a lot more of a childhood than me, T. I just played Mario Brothers 1 and 3 over and over again. Being the poor kid, I can't. We weren't rich, my man. Like, we weren't exactly poor, but we were definitely lower middle class. And I was just, I was lucky in a lot of ways. I had a lot of family, and I had older cousins and whatnot who would just give me stuff because they knew I played games. And so they would get stuff, and when they got the new system, they would give me their stuff. So it wasn't like I was getting new games and stuff all the time, but I have a really big family, and so a lot of stuff got handed down to me. So the Genesis, my first Genesis was a hand down, and then I got the Genesis, the Model 2 one, the smaller one. I got that for Christmas one year. I think it was like maybe 93. And that's when I got into like Streets of Rage. So I didn't have like this, I didn't have a terrible bad childhood, and I had a good childhood, but I didn't have a childhood where I got everything. I wasn't the kid from the movie The Toy where I got everything or anything like that. And sometimes I was really surprised because like I said, I have a big family. In my immediate family, I'm the oldest of 8 kids. So, but at that time, there wasn't 8 of us. There was like 3 of us at that time. So I still was able to get more stuff. But yeah, I was lucky in a lot of ways. I have a huge family, and a lot of stuff was given to me. I have aunts and uncles out the wazoo, and they would send me stuff for birthdays and stuff like that. So I was lucky in that. Some music sounds better when it's played by printers and HDDs. That's why some Genesis music sounds better. Okay, yeah. Some Genesis music is just awful, and some of the sound is just not good. But some is like, is this on a different console? like I said, those Shinobi games, those Streets of Rage games, pretty much any of the Capcom brawlers, the Disney stuff, all that stuff had really good sound design and music. So a lot of those games you couldn't tell. No, that's right. Please, Mother 3, please, Nintendo, I'm begging you. Reggie, give us Mother 3. Sega brought back Streets of Rage. Capcom is reviving on Onimusha and Mega Man. So when is Nintendo going to bring back Sin and Punishment or Golden Sun? Says Seikon 10. Good question. We know they have the resources. We know we have the means, and I think Nintendo gets away with a lot of stuff because they they put stuff in Smash, and they feel like that's good enough. But no, I want new games in those series, just like you. I definitely want Mother 3. But you know what? I've been having this inner theory as far as Mother 3 goes. That I guess I can share now. It's not a big deal. What were the other games you were saying here? Mega Man, Nintendo bring back Sin and Punishment. Yeah, I would love a new Sin and Punishment, but Sin and Punishment is not Nintendo. It's not a Nintendo game. They may own the IP, but Treasure is a developer. So I don't know if somebody else can do it justice. I think, actually, let me take that back. I think a company like, oh my God, Bayonetta. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing such blanks right now because I haven't eaten. Maybe that's why I can't think. I haven't eaten yet. But oh my God, Platinum. Platinum, I think would be a good company for Nintendo to, if they own the IP. I think Nintendo has the IP for Sin and Punishment. Platinum Games would be a good company to revive Sin and Punishment. I think they would be. I think they're just really good at those older arcade-style games, those fast-paced, fast-action games. I think Platinum would make a really good Sin and Punishment. So there's that. So as far as Mother 3 goes, I have this, internal theory. I haven't shared it because I don't have any, there's no information on it being a thing. But I have this weird feeling inside that could be Retro's game. That Retro could be working on the Mother 3 that was supposed to come out for the N64. Remember, it was going to be a 3D game, and then they later released the Game Boy Advance game in the East for Mother 3, and we never got it over here. But there is a fan translation. You can get Mother 3 fan translated and everything for your Game Boy Advance right now if you want. Or you can probably get the ROM as well, obviously. But I have this weird feeling because I know Nintendo hears people when it comes to Earthbound, the Mother series. That would be a really good game for Retro to be working on. They're obviously not doing Metroid Prime, and I think that would be a really good game for Retro Studios to spread their wings with, if you will. So that's just my fan theory. Yes, Saddam Pickle says that would be chaotic hype. I think it would be chaotic hype. I just think with the the acquisitions, the people they bring, I just feel like because Earthbound Mother does have a sci-fi element to it, and they've been hiring like these sci-fi game people from like what's the series, Deus Ex and stuff. They've been hiring ex-Deus Ex developers and stuff, and I just think Mother 3, Earthbound 3D, or whatever they would call it, would be a nice fit for Retro. I think that's a game that they could tackle really well. So that's my theory. I'm throwing it out there. That's my theory. All right, so I think we're all caught up here in the chat, and it's time for my final topic today, and that is my Nintendo Online rant. And I just want to say it's very easy to rag on Nintendo's online. For many years, I didn't do it as much because all of Wii U's failings, I felt like Nintendo was making a step towards where they needed to be. And I want to preface this first by saying, I mean, everybody knows I'm a big Nintendo guy. That's my channel. Is what I started with, and when people like you and they like your channel and they like the direction, and maybe you haven't ragged Nintendo out all that much, maybe you do it once in a while, but it's not too big, people tend to like latch onto you more, and you speak for me, and I completely understand that. I'm that way as well. With a lot of movie YouTubers that I watch, there's a certain movie YouTuber that I like, or they're a bunch of guys, and they review movies, and they're really funny, they're hilarious. I see myself in them as like, oh, I should have a channel like that type of thing, and I love the direction of their channel. But they have this one thing about them that I can't stand, and at one point I almost like stopped watching them because of it. But they are huge Marvel guys, and for me, they give Marvel a pass on things where they don't DC. There are a lot of meh Marvel movies out there that get a bigger pass, I think, than anything DC would, and from these guys especially. So, but that's the only sticking point for me with these guys. I feel like they coddle Marvel a little bit too much, and no, DC deserves flack, no doubt about it. I don't think they deserve as much flack for some of the movies that they put out there, like Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel. I think that movie, there's certain things in Man of Steel that annoy the hell out of me that should never have happened. But I'm not going to get to a movie thing. But what I'm just saying is that I understand people latching on to YouTubers and they speak for me type of thing. And the minute that they don't, the minute they say something against what you like, it's like a thin line between love and hate. I love you, but dare you say that against when you're supposed to be speaking for me? You're supposed to be my voice. How dare you question? So that happens with Nintendo and people who latch onto Nintendo or Nintendo fans and latch onto Nintendo YouTubers, I should say. So when Nintendo YouTubers are critical, I see in the comments and some in the dislike bar, oh my God, it's like your wife just stabbed you. You know, it's like the worst thing ever. So I get that. So I'm gonna try to come from a perspective of not judging Nintendo on the other companies, because I don't feel like that's fair. I don't feel like they have that kind of savvy as far as the online infrastructure and all that goes, because Microsoft is obviously a software company. Sony is a big entertainment company. They have all these resources that Nintendo would never have. So I don't hold them to the same standard. So I'm going to hold Nintendo to a Nintendo standard when it comes to their online stuff. So I remember Nintendo from day one with the NES having an expansion port at the bottom of the console that did a number of things. One being a networking setup. I believe this was only a thing in Japan with the disk drive system with the Famicom. That Famicom, if you don't know, had a disk drive system, and it took little floppy disks, little 4x3s. That's what they call it, right? The hard ones. And you put it into a disk drive for a lot of Famicom games, and it would expand these games, and the games would do more because obviously the disc you had more space, and they were cheaper than cartridges at the time. So Nintendo did that whole disc system thing, and you could read and write new games to certain discs, and like I said, it expanded it and whatnot. And went on into the Super Nintendo, they had services where you could download games from a network and play them for a while, and it was kind of like a rental situation. Remember, was Sega? Was it Sega TV or something where they had that thing where you can rent games basically over a network and you can do all that stuff? And this was the early 90s, mid 90s. And then you get into even the N64. And again, this was only a Japan thing. I don't know what's Nintendo's thing not releasing their disk drive systems in the West or outside of Japan. You had the 64 DD. Now, you guys know that I'm a huge N64 fan. N64 is my favorite console of all time. So anything dealing with the N64, I was in the magazines. I was reading. This is when I got my knowledge as a gamer. So a lot of you guys are like, oh, how do you remember this stuff? How do you know this stuff? I was a mad, crazy magazine reader, website scavenger in those days. And that's why I got accumulated with a lot of companies and developers and the whole process of developing games. That's when that happened for me during the N64 era. So I would read everything deal with Nintendo. And then there was this cool thing coming, the N64 DD, N64 disk drive. You slap it onto the bottom of your N64, and it was another way, because again, N64 cartridges were very expensive, and the Nintendo was looking for ways to like bring down the costs. Because you had N64 games that were coming out that were $80, you know. And Nintendo was trying to find ways to bring down those costs because, you know, developing with Silicon, they had that partnership with Silicon Graphics, and N64 was an expensive console, and Nintendo was pushing it, and they were all about the power, and these are the things you can't do on other consoles, the fully realized 3D worlds without the texture warping problems you used to have on the Saturn and the PlayStation. Remember how the 3D games on PlayStation and Saturn, the wall would shake when you moved. It was really shaky. The textures were sharper, but they were kind of jaggy-ish, and that was not a problem on the N64. And so it was very expensive. And so Nintendo was trying to find ways to bring down the cost, and that 64 disk drive was one way. And when I saw those awesome-looking N64 discs, the 64 DD disc, the little floppy thing that you slide into, those look so futuristic and space age and cool to me. And I was just like, wow, this is really cool. I can't wait to get this thing. And I kept reading about it, and they kept talking about it. And the disk drive thing was doing some really cool stuff. Did you know? Let me break off into a did you know segment. Did you know that the N64 version or disk drive version of like F-Zero and there were a number of other games. It was like Doshin the Giant, all this stuff. F-Zero was allowing you to make your own tracks. You had the Mario, it wasn't paint, but it was like a Mario kind of studio or whatever. It was allowing you to do all these cool creations. Like I said, the F-Zero, you can create your own tracks and upload them to the internet to share. And this was, you know, 97, 98, even before like Sega really got in with the Dreamcast. Nintendo was doing these things on using the internet that was crazy at the time. And you're thinking, man, especially after the Dreamcast came out and you had Sega Net and how much that thing cost. What was it, 20? It was like, how much? I can't remember what it was. It was like $20 a month or $21 or something weird like that, or something for every 3 months, something like that. And you think, okay, Nintendo was kind of ahead of the curve with that stuff, although Sega did have like a network thing for the Saturn as well. But you think Nintendo is ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff. I mean, uploading your own tracks to the internet in the early or the late 90s for games like F-Zero, and being able to, like, again, you can download and read and write certain disk drive disc would allow you to do that, and you can play new games, just kind of like a rental service again. And you could, like, so they were doing stuff with the internet back then that I thought was really cool. And you knew that the GameCube was coming out, and the GameCube had the network adapter. So that was oh yeah, Nintendo's going to do what Sega's already doing with the Dreamcast and what Sony obviously is going to do and Microsoft was definitely going to do with their console. And you get to the GameCube, and the rollout of games is pathetic. And you're like, how did the company that started so innovatively with networking and what they did on the internet, so abysmal with what they're doing internet-wise on the GameCube? The only games that use the network adapter was the Phantasy Star games, right? There's another one out there? And I'm like, you wonder why the GameCube sold so poorly when it was so archaic. The GameCube was such a powerhouse of a device. On one end, it had, it was visually impressive. It was very close to what the original Xbox could do graphic-wise, and it exceeded in some ways. And you had that, but you had this whole caveman side of it where it shouldn't have been that. I mean, do you guys not think how awesome, how much better the GameCube would have sold had you been able to play Double Dash online? Had you been able Melee? Are you kidding me? Melee online would have sold GameCubes like nothing. And F-Zero and Star Fox, and because all these games had really good multiplayer aspects to them, but you could only play them in the huddle in your house. And it's just like the N64 in a way was that network console, was that fun multiplayer console, and you thought, of course, Nintendo was going to move into the next era and have that, and then add the online aspect, especially with all these games, these great games, and in their history of what they were doing with their disk drive systems going back to 1987. And you're like, how in the world the GameCube, that powerhouse of a console that should have been a huge success, had they gotten the online stuff? I think people talk about the disc size and all that. That was the biggest problem with the GameCube's sales, is the fact that it was so caveman when it came to online. That, to me, is what hurt it the most. Everybody loved the GameCube. Remember, to this day, GameCube was great, such a great console. It had all the third-party support. It had on-par third-party support in many ways. Everybody loved that controller. It was a beast of a console. From day one, you can tell how powerful that thing was with games like Rogue Leader. And it's just like, it fumbled on the internet stuff so hugely, especially with the accumulation of games, Mario parties, and all those. You know how awesome, how big of a thing that would have been online for GameCube. So that was the biggest issue with GameCube. I don't know why I never mentioned that before, but to me, that was the biggest problem with GameCube, was that fact that it wasn't online. It was an arcade console at a time where, that online play was bustling. It was the big new thing. And then obviously, so they kind of fumbled into the Wii, and that infrastructure wasn't that great. And they farmed that out to a third-party company, if I'm not mistaken, with the Wii and the DS, because that company, I guess, went under when we lost the online infrastructure for Wii and DS, a couple years ago. So Nintendo themselves still didn't have they still didn't have the experience themselves with working with the online. So they fumbled through the GameCube era and Wii era, and then we get to the Wii U, and you're like, okay, maybe they got it right this time. And the Wii U's feature set was looking really nice. You had video chat, you had Miiverse, you had a lot of web-based apps, all these cool channels and stuff. The Wii U was such an integrated, as far as online and whatnot. It was like, you had voice chat. Some games used it, some games didn't. And you're like, oh, this is the step. This is the step that Nintendo's going to take, and we're going to get there. Next console for sure. And you come out with the Switch, and you're like, what in the hell? You can't even message a person. You can't even message your friends. And it's just like, why is my 3DS that came out in 2011 have better connectivity features than my 2017 console? So bare bones, like messaging. And we now know that the Switch can do native voice chat, and yet Nintendo is still pushing this Frankenstein app to voice chat. And it's just like, why are you doing this when we have a free-to-play game on the Switch that has native from the console voice chat? Why is this a thing? Why are you still so disjointed with your history? I'm not talking about the other guys. With your history, Nintendo, why are you still this disjointed? Now, I don't care that well, we know there's native voice chat, but for a lot of Wii U games, there wasn't. Obviously, big Nintendo, anything Nintendo first party didn't have any voice chat. So, and you have a game on the Nintendo Land that was screaming for online. That would have been a nice killer app. And you botched that up. No online for a game that screams for online in Nintendo Land. And I think every Nintendo fan was on board with that even back then. Like, why is this game not online? This game should be online. And you're like, how do you botch that up? And you get the Wii Sports Club debacle on Wii U. And it's just, so back to the Switch, though. We're on the Switch now. And this is people call it, oh, Switch is like a tablet. And it's nowhere near what a tablet can do. And it's designed by people who put their chipsets on a regular basis in tablets with NVIDIA. Like, that's what they do. They have NVIDIA tablets. The console has a tablet chipset. And you're like, why a year and a half later can I still not message people on my friends list? Why does a console with native voice chat act like it doesn't have native voice chat? Like, it just doesn't make any damn sense. So obviously we have, here's the thing, here's another thing. Especially if you were one of the people that were complaining about the Wii U and its connectivity and its online infrastructure and all that stuff, and you are a mouse in a church about the Switch, you, to me, are a fraud. Like, I don't like to say that, but you're quiet because the Switch is popular where the Wii U wasn't. But at this point, the Wii U has better connectivity than the Switch does. And I don't hear these people saying these things. They're very quiet. They're very, oh, it doesn't matter. When you were losing your minds, pulling your hair out, when the Wii U didn't do certain things. So I'm just saying what is. I'm just saying is what is. Like, I'm not trying to shame anybody, but if you're quiet about this, I just don't understand it. Like, again, I don't even care about voice chat, but the console can do it. It has native voice chat. I'm not going to use it. I used it once. I think I used it once in Fortnite. But I like, at this point, there's so many options, more intuitive, that are more fun to use. Like, I don't care about randoms. I don't care about talking to randoms and none of that stuff. So that's another reason native voice chat doesn't matter to me. If you care about that stuff, I can understand where it matters to you, but it doesn't matter to me on that aspect. But I'm just saying where they should be. I'm not saying stuff about what I care about so much as to where they should be, coming from where they came from. So to me, it's insane that Nintendo is at this point with this console, especially, like I said, a tablet console that you think would be a tablet. You think it would have tablet capabilities. You think it would have mobile capabilities, and it just doesn't make sense. So they're gonna roll out some stuff. I'm annoyed by the fact that they're talking about, oh, you get these 20 classic games when you sign up for Nintendo. I'm like, I don't care about Balloon Fight. I don't care about maybe playing online with some 8-bit games. I don't care. You know what would excite me, especially as a guy who loves N64 games? Give us what you should have given us. Not with the N64 especially so much, but with the GameCube. Give us what you should have given us for the GameCube and bring us GameCube games like what I mentioned. Melee Online. I know you don't want to do Melee at this point because Ultimate's coming out and everybody's going to run the Melee Online. All those purists will run the Melee Online over Ultimate even. But that should be a thing at some point. I don't want to hear about your 8-bit games that I've had for 20 years. That doesn't excite me. Super Nintendo, we're getting warmer. N64, we are on fire. And GameCube, we're a volcano erupting. That's where you should be. That's what's going to excite me about your online setup. So, like I said, for Nintendo standards, they should be better. Not the industry so much. I'm not judging them by that because those guys, like I said, have way better resources, way bigger resources they can invest into it. But Nintendo ain't broke. Nintendo is a company that makes a lot of money. They're a $30 billion company at this point. They can invest in that stuff, and they should, because internet is not going anywhere. That is the present, it's the past, and it's the future. So it's not like you're throwing you're investing in, you're not investing in 3D technology. You're not investing in 3D TVs. You're not investing in that kind of stuff. You're investing in something that's going to be here for a while. So let's get on the ball with this stuff. Like the simplest things. Like there's no reason my Wii U, at this point, a year and a half into the Switch's life cycle almost, there's no reason that it should outclass it in anything. Especially as far as online connectivity goes. So that's my rant. Pretty much done. And like I said, they once it rolls out, it could melt away a lot of this stuff. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter because you should already be there. I'm going to be happy when you get there. I'm not going to be, oh, yeah, you should have done it about time. I'm not going to be one of those guys. I'm going to be glad that you got there, Nintendo. But you should already be there. And that's what's disappointing. And that's what's kept you back, as far as I'm concerned, during the GameCube era. Like, you would be ahead in a lot of these other things. The GameCube would have sold, 50 million consoles, 60 million consoles, something like that, which it should have sold. If it had done that, we would have got a Wii that's 480p. We would have got a Wii HD. And so you would have been ahead of the curve with the HD stuff. And so by the time you got to Wii U, you would have been ahead of the curve, and your online infrastructure, all that stuff would have been ahead of the curve, and you would be doing a lot better at this point. So, hindsight is 20/20, obviously. But at the time, I was looking over my shoulder like, man, I want to play. It's fun. I play with my friends with Melee and all these games in the house, and we link up and play that way. That's great and everything. But man, sometimes when I'm home by myself, it would have been really cool to play those games online in the middle of the night with friends who didn't want to run over to my house, or just online buddies. When the other companies were doing it, the other consoles were doing that, and it's just sad. If that's the thing I could change, go back in time and change about Nintendo, that would be the one thing I would go back and change, is that the GameCube would have been a fully functional online console. That I think would have changed a lot of things to do with Nintendo. That would have been a snowball effect with a lot of things that we're not as excited about right now as Nintendo fans as we would have been had those things changed. So that's my rant. So let me see what you guys got here. I'm going to get out of here. Where you guys have been saying a lot since last I looked, so I'm scrolling back here. I don't want to miss anybody's comments. Well, you guys have said a lot. I went on my rant and I just didn't even pay attention to the chat here. So, but I do want to read all this stuff because it looks all like really good stuff here. So, I really hope that chat app, no, a little further, messaging. Wow. Where are we? I'm getting close. It's $40. I read the Switch Online cloud saving. Wow. Going even further here. But like I said, this is all important stuff, so I don't want to miss it. All right, here I am. Deus Ex Q says Konami has to feel the hurt of all the support. With Bloodstain, they put Simon Belmont in Smash. Where the hell is Castlevania? I think Castlevania will be coming. I think things like Bomberman and you know, all these other companies bringing back their IPs and making money from it. I think Konami will be bringing back some of their stuff. What's wrong with the online T, says Master Porky. I'm sure that's sarcasm. So I mean, Pickle, what online? Yes, exactly. Q, it shouldn't be easy to rag on Nintendo online. Nintendo didn't give 250 million identities to hackers. Look, there are good things about it, but at the end of the day, did that hurt Sony in the long run? So would you rather have just nothing or something with issues? I would rather have something that has issues that need to be fixed than having nothing, no choice at all. Pachinko machines, says Master Porky. Rob Morris, screw Pachinko. I'm trying to stay on topic here. Dr. Strange was the master of that. And okay, you guys are talking about the Marvel stuff here because I started talking about that. I read the other day that the Switch online cloud saving will be automatic, says Rakia. So it makes me worry that it's kind of the thing that the developers will need to set up. So that's another thing. It's just like, make it as simple as possible so we don't have these problems. Rakia, time to crawl into bed. Oh, you left. Good night. Master Porky, it's $40. Decent, I'm cool. Sardonic Pickle, when YouTubers take the first 15 minutes of their video to explain what an opinion is and how opinions are bound to differ a little, tangent. But yeah, it's sad that we have to do that, but you'd be surprised how many times people argue semantics with you if you're a YouTuber. I mean, you're a YouTuber, Sardonic, but you probably don't get it as much as I do. I get a lot of semantics arguments back and forth, and it's just like, come on, you know what I'm talking about. But people maybe sometimes don't get your context, so that's why I try to deliver the most succinct context that I can, and it's still not good enough, so it's pointless anyway. But yeah, so Q, every YouTuber's gonna do that. Time filled, more ad money. I don't know what you're talking about there. YouTube has improved its ad policies. That is true. Didn't think of that. Q. Start on the Pickle. God, you know a lot about this, T. Honestly, if Nintendo finally allows me to invite friends to a party, like chat on the Switch itself, I'm okay. Yeah, it's not going to take much for them. Again, I'm not judging them to what the bigger guys are doing with their $60 a year subscriptions, because this is $20. And then if you do a family thing, I'm spitting. If you do a family thing, it's like, what, $5? So it's not that expensive. But if you're going to charge me, at least get me up to par to what you gave me for free, you know, like, and make that a little better. That I'm not asking for a lot here. And I don't think most people are. Most Nintendo fans are not asking for a lot here. Third parties did the X-Band mod online with the SNES. Yeah, that's the thing I was trying to remember. But yeah, I know a lot about it because I've been, like I said, I was a freaking nerd about this stuff. I would read all this stuff, you know, in magazines, and I read books on the gaming, the beginnings, the history, and all that stuff. So this is stuff that I really cared about, and I would, you know, I would inform myself with. So that's why when I talk about, I wanted to bring up the history of Nintendo as far as their online stuff goes, because they should be better based on their own standards, not the industry so much, because I understand they don't have the resources, but based on their own standards, they should be better. Like pussyfooting with GameCube's online made no sense. Online was the future. Online was the present at that time. So it made no sense for them to be tentative about it. They should have put some resources into it. Q, I really hope the chat app keeps things game focused. If I invite friends, like I don't hate everything about the chat app. I think it would be a cool way to message. For one, we can't message yet. It'd be a cool way to message. It'd be a cool way to keep up with your games and stuff like that. There's cool things about the chat or the app, and chat is not one of them. Especially when we know the console has native voice chat built in. I'm not surprised by that because my damn DS, not the 3DS, my DS had native voice chat built into it. So, you know, these are small things we're asking for here. PS2, hard to beat in that. I missed something there. Sardonic, there are people using fan servers to keep the GameCube online with Phantasy Star Online. Yeah, I know about that. I know about the fan service for the GameCube Phantasy Star Online. I know there's people still playing it, which is bananas to me. But that's not Nintendo. That's a thing that they had to keep up because Nintendo. I mean, I don't know if those servers would be up at this point anyway, but Nintendo had no infrastructure as far as the online stuff went. I guess they looked at the pricing and said, nope, we'll let the companies pay for that stuff instead of doing it themselves. Sardonic, I defy anyone who says Hell's Kitchen on the Wii is shovelware. Overcooked plagiarized that blatantly. I have no idea. I'll take your word for it. Tornado Juice, the Wii had a way to message friends and gift games from the virtual console. That's right. Like, I thought for sure, because I wanted to buy a game for my son the other day, the other week. And I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll use my account and I'll gift you the game. Because I just assumed that I didn't really look into that stuff on Switch, that you could do that. And you can't. Are you kidding me? Why? It's just ridiculous at this point. These are little things. I'm not asking for super duper party chat with video streaming and none of that stuff, because I don't really care for that stuff. And there's some people that do, and they probably should have it. But I'm just talking about little things that this console should be doing right now. You had everything people wanted instead of they got mad that PlayStation wasn't doing it and mudslung the console for 5 years. Yeah. I want so many of my wife's games. It says Sardonic. What do you pickle? Hell's Kitchen is a 57 on Metacritic. That does. You should know better. There's a lot of things about GRXL that I'm not with, but I expect more from you when it comes to this Metacritic talk. There are bad games, quote unquote, bad games that people like, and it shouldn't be based on Metacritic whether you like a game or not. So that shouldn't be a thing. And video games or movies, I can't stand that. Rotten Tomatoes, what did Rotten Tomatoes say? What did you say? You know what? Because there are bad movies out there that I love. And if I listened to Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic, I would have never seen. So think for yourselves. I'm kind of excited for a hat in time. That's fine, Sardonic. It looks like a good game. I hear that it's a good game. I'm just taking a principled stance because I don't like how they went about it. Like people would say to me, "Oh, well, what about what's Camilla? Camilla. Camilla's a dick online. Yeah, he talks to people on Twitter all kinds of ways." Camilla does that on his personal Twitter. He doesn't go on Platinum's Twitter and say all these stupid things and childish things. He doesn't use the company's Twitter like a Hat in Time did with Gears for Breakfast. So, issue, you know, you can have your issue with people and companies, what they say on Twitter and whatnot. But I wouldn't have an issue with the company or the game that they create if they didn't put that out there as a company. They put it out there for Gears for Breakfast's Twitter. That guy, whoever he was, and he's one of the higher ups in the company, who he was running the Twitter, which he shouldn't have been because like I said, he's a sensitive bitch. He shouldn't have done that to the company's Twitter. Go to your Twitter and rag all you want. I can still buy the game and feel okay about it, but you're using a company, so that to me, you're speaking as the company, and that's what ruined it for me. So I don't mind. Hat in Time looks like a good game. I'm very sour on the fact that I, have to take this stance on it. So, so it's fine, Sardonic. Buy it by all means. Zombie U with Miiverse was the shit. There are so many capture glitches. It was damn near NC-17. Nintendo banned me more than once. Let's see. Switch is a Vita 2.0. Okay, that's cool. It shouldn't be. In many ways, it should be better than that. The Vita Online, I believe, has a better setup at this point than the Switch. There is no excuse for no messaging friends. No excuse. There's no excuse for that. No excuse for that. In this day and time, there's no excuse for that. And it seems it's a very simple thing that they could have easily put in, I thought, at this point. T, make me a mod in the chat. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Just not right now. I want to get through these. Start on a quick. A friend of mine swore on Nintendo being shit during the Wii U. He has a Switch now and loves Mario Odyssey, and I don't know why he has a Switch. See, that's the thing. It's popular. If the Wii U was popular, if it sold well, a lot of people, because it has fantastic games on it. Games are so fantastic, the Switch had to snatch them. So, but it wasn't a popular console. And people bought the Wii. They might rag, they might say certain things about it. A lot of these gamers will say certain things about the Wii, but you know what? They went out there and bought one. It might be in the closet. It might be collecting dust. They like to say that a lot. But they went out there and they bought it because it was popular. And that's how simple a lot of people are. If it's popular, all this stuff they talk about, oh, I don't like Nintendo games, blah, 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 all that goes away if it sells. So it just proved my point, which I said this is going to happen. I said if the Switch is popular, which I thought it would be, all these excuses were going to go away, and most of them have. Don't give Juice power. I might want to rethink that. So don't do it, T. It's a trap. So I'm gonna put Turtles in Time online co-op. Oh man, that would be great. You're playing online with incentives and it's cheaper. I don't know if that's a defense of what we have right now, because everybody knows it's cheaper. And the incentives to me don't move me. So playing 8-bit games or having access to NES games, which I have on my Wii, which I have in my collection originally, which I have on my Wii U, which I have on I have them on my 3DS virtual console. So, you know, it doesn't move me. But it's cheap, but it's not enough. You got to give me at least what you gave me for free, and then add to it if you're going to charge me. You're playing. I said that already. You know what would excite me? The Switch had games. Oh, shut up, Art. So you bought it. I don't want to. You bought it. I don't want to hear about your complaints at this point. Wii U, no matter the failure people say it was an awesome and still is. I still play my Wii U, Rob. So I agree with you. People who don't have it should give it a try. I think at some point it will. I don't know if it'll hit Dreamcast status because Dreamcast didn't have a console that came out after it that took a lot of its best games. Had the Xbox original done that, which I think it should have, I think Sega and Microsoft should have worked out a deal to where a lot of those games that were on that were on Dreamcast were ported over to Xbox, which would have been an easy thing because Dreamcast used Windows CE, so it would have been an easy port setup. But the Wii U has a console that's porting its old games to it, so it won't have that same impact long term. But I think it will, you know, like most consoles, it will be looked at in a better light. Maybe it'll hit like Saturn status, and you know, some of those games might hit that as well. Please don't give Juice that power. Dang, Juice, you don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of friends in the chat here. Don't trust Juice. At least give us SNES and GBA. GBA would be nice. That would be a nice thing, and obviously SNES. But GBA, I think, would be even bigger because, you know, for most part, you're relegated to that small screen on the GBA. So that would be a nice little niche. And oh no, okay, there we go. I have no idea why Nintendo is still behind online. I love everything else about the Switch. Exactly, I love everything else about this console, and it's just small things having to do with its online. It's not even like a big thing. It's not even big things. So, 12 Feet Tall says he'll never pay for Nintendo's half-ass online. PS2 had trash online and it sold 154 million. The online for most consoles wasn't that great in those times. Well, I mean, obviously, the Xbox was forcing broadband, which I think hurt it, but it also helped it in the long run. I think had it had a dial-up option, it would have sold better, but because it was basically forcing people into broadband, which most people didn't have at the time. But just having that online option, we had crap online, but it was an option. You gave people the option. You know, people feel better knowing they had that extra added value of playing online. And you know, I think a lot of the games that the GameCube missed out on would have came had it had that online because it would have sold better. And a lot of companies were pushing for the online stuff because it was a thing that sold games. Online multiplayer sold games in those days, regardless of how good it was. The Sega Dreamcast online and for SegaNet wasn't that great, but it was an option that it was a cool option at the time. And people were like, "Wow, this is the future." So it was a mind share thing. Kojima and overrated dub out. Is Kojima overrated? To me, he is. Sakon 10. To me, Kojima is definitely overrated, but a lot of people love Metal Gear. I don't. I think they're okay games. I'm not in love with them. And that's the series he's mostly known for. So if you make one game series and you've reached that status, I'm confused because I need to see different genres from you. I need to see more games be successful from you. So for me, he is overrated. I never liked any of his work. So 12 Feet Tall. I think Konami did the right thing to fire Kojima. Like, I think I understand why they fired Kojima. They just did it terribly. They just did it in a very horrible, totalitarian way. Like Konami as a company was changing, and Kojima games were very expensive, and they barely broke even, or they barely made a profit, and they were very risky for Konami. So I understand why they got rid of them. They just did it in a very awful, horrible, terrible way. Like as a non-Kojima fan, I can look back and see that it was bordering slavish type of stuff they did to him. And for a guy who a lot of people cared about Konami only for him to be treated that way was atrocious and should never happen. So yeah, I understand why they let him go. I don't think the way they did it was you shouldn't do that to a three-legged dog. Like that was just terrible. So I'm going to be, what's this, 10 minutes before the I'm about to drop this thing soon, guys. I'm trying to finish up typical Nintendo. Their eccentric, mysterious girlfriend who like their potatoes half poached for some reason. Yeah, they're so disjointed and they're so about certain things. It drives me crazy because they're so good in so many things, and then they're just so stupid with decisions and other things. And they shouldn't be, because they have the history to be better. Kamiya, we already know what we're getting. The tweet from him. It's different to me because one, he wasn't using the company's Twitter, and Kamiya had a history. Kamiya was established. Gears for Breakfast was not. Kamiya could get away with that stuff, and I'll say that to my, I'm blue in the face. He had a pedigree. He had a history. Well, he could talk to people a little bit more abrasively than most, and it was accepted because he had the games. You guys were coming in with your hat in hand, hoping people to like you, and you were saying all the right things, and then you turn into an ass, and that's just not the way to do it. So that's how I feel about that. All right, I'm actually going to that Dreamcast. I'm actually going back to my Dreamcast regardless. Some of the prices being outstanding, but there are so many gems on that console. Yes, and you can't get them anywhere else, so that's a big thing. So, and my last comment here is from Visored Grunt R34. Wonder how the hardcore would feel about Streets of Rage 4's cartoony graphics. I've always seen it as a cartoon, but some folks think cartoon equals kiddie. Yeah, I mean, the last Streets of Rage game was 16-bit, visual style. It wasn't like realistic or anything. So this is, to me, is an acceptable next step. Look at Mega Man. Mega Man is pretty much in line with the other games. They didn't go some crazy different kind of away with the new Mega Man 11. So for me, this is just fine. I would like 3 more games, or 2 more other than 4, to go this way, and then maybe go try again that 3D route, that Fighting Force route, and see what you can do there. Because I would like to see somebody get that right. That would be a nice thing, I would think, to happen. So yeah, that's it, guys, for my cast tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank everybody for joining in. I'm going to keep these things going weekly while I have the time. So, and once I move into the new crib, I'll still be able to do this because I'll have my own closed off office. So I'll be able to continue these live streams. And so I appreciate all you guys. I hope I got to everybody's comments here. Great chat with you guys. I always enjoy these. I really enjoy these a lot, so definitely going to keep them going. So good night to everybody. And I got another podcast to get into. I hope they're still waiting for me. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining, and peace out. This is going to take me a minute because my TV is asleep. or at least it's doing its thing. And so let's pop this up. All right, there I am, ending stream. Peace. Now let's try that again.